Welcome, ghouls, to today's episode of Mental Health is Horrifying. I'm your horror Barbie host of darkness, Candis Green, psychotherapist, and all-around spooky bitch, podcasting from my bat-filled cave in Toronto, Canada. Where I live here in Toronto, it's allegedly spring. And when I say allegedly, I mean, we're at that time of year where all in one day we'll experience snow, rain, patio weather for 20 minutes, and then freezing rain again. So when I saw that Netflix released a new series produced by the Duffer Brothers, aka the creators of Stranger Things, about a horror-filled wedding, well, I just threw my phone down a well and hunkered down for a good old-fashioned binge watch. Mother Nature, I will see you later. I loved this series. It has everything. The distinct feeling that you have been submerged in someone's nightmare, haunted wedding dresses, the potential for human sacrifice, nosebleeds, and an exploration of the intergenerational curse of heteronormativity. Something very bad is going to happen. Netflix's newest horror series begs the question: do you really want to marry this guy, or do you just feel like you have to? Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's check out Something Very Bad is Going to Happen and explore bridal anxiety and the curse of heteronormative expectations. Okay, so since Something Very Bad is Going to Happen is an 8-part miniseries, I'm just going to give you a quick, spoiler-free synopsis. This is a brand new show, and I wouldn't want to ruin it for you. So here's the gist. Rachel and Nikki drive to their parents' secluded cabin/mansion for their intimate wedding. Rachel is made aware of some local curses and supernatural lore in the area, and begins experiencing echoes of these spooky legends along the way, with an overall vibe of foreboding, dread, and the very distinct feeling that something very bad is going to happen. Rachel has expressed not being 100% sure about this whole marriage thing, but nevertheless, here they are at this weird cabin with Nikki's creepy family. The vibes are truly off with this bunch. You can't really blame Rachel for not being so sure about the whole marriage thing. After all, her mother died on her wedding day in a horrible curse that we'll learn more about as the series progresses. As the wedding day draws nearer, Rachel's fears and anxieties about getting married are projected onto her external environment, where it feels like she is in a living nightmare that she cannot escape. Inspired to make this series from her own fears of choosing the wrong person to marry. As she reached her late 20s and was surrounded by people getting married, she began to feel anxious. She asked herself, what is a soulmate, and does that even exist? How do you know? She was inspired by movies like Carrie and Rosemary's Baby, where they took milestone life events and made them horrifying, highlighting the pressure we place on hitting these life milestones. For me, there were also times that I was reminded of Kill Bill while watching this. There are some scenes with snow and blood that remind me of that epic final showdown between Oren Ishii and Beatrix Kiddo. I love the casting so much in this series, particularly the choice to cast Adam DeMarco as the fiancé with the really intense family. You might know him from The White Lotus, where he also played a bit of a wiener. His casting was perfect, because if they had cast someone like Pedro Pascal, we, the audience, would not feel the same overwhelming dread and questioning about whether or not Rachel should be marrying this guy. This would be a completely different show where we cheer Rachel and Pedro Pascal on while they skip off into the distance eating ice cream sundaes while petting rescue puppies. If you've ever gotten married or been in a wedding party or been close to someone who has gotten married, there is a point in every wedding planning process where one or both people in the couple become so stressed out that they want to run away to Fiji to elope or just run away independently. Maybe not together. Weddings are a big deal, not simply because you are marrying someone, but they are emotionally supercharged transitional life hurricanes that thrust you through a portal where it seems like all your family stuff, friendship stuff, and sense of self are jammed into a blender together to make one of those cocktails that you then light on fire. There's the actual logistics of the big circus wedding, the wedding party, dysfunctional family members, a usually stressed out bride, hideous matching polyester suits, religion, and the most expensive party you will likely ever have to pay for. Beyond logistics, though, weddings plunge all involved into complex psychological terrain. Weddings can stir up a lot of feelings for everyone, from family trauma to friendship hierarchies, not to mention the massive societal pressure and significance that we place on the performance of love and tradition through weddings. Which is where we meet Rachel and Nikki in Something Bad Is Going to Happen. There is a movie I really love from 2008 starring Anne Hathaway called Rachel Getting Married. This series should be called Rachel Doesn't Want to Get Married. If this show is one thing, it's laced with dread, foreboding, and the distinct feeling that something very bad is going to happen from the jump. We meet Rachel and Nikki as they drive to Nikki's family's secluded cabin/mansion to get married. We learn that Rachel is not someone who ever wanted to get married, and she also has never been interested in having children. The couple stops at a frozen custard shop, and there, Rachel talks about not wanting to have children. She talks about the physical dangers of pregnancy and delivery, her fear of haunted children, and her belief that children are just a vessel for old people to pour their love into and distract from the inevitable loneliness of aging. Damn girl. Nikki dismisses everything she says and does not take her concerns or choices as valid. When she talks about not wanting to be ripped in half during childbirth, he tells her, "That won't happen to you. We would have a dainty baby." When she talks about her experience with haunted children, capable of recalling the traumas of past lives, he tells her that's not a real thing. When she shares her existential beliefs about why people have children, he dismisses her again, saying our kid will be perfect, as though it's a foregone conclusion that she must produce a child for this man-boy. Exchanges like this one manifest a nightmare-like environment that carries throughout the series. Rachel really does love Nikki, in the beginning at least, so I guess that means that she has to marry him in a big circus wedding, and then she has to have children with him. You know when you try to repress things that you don't want to think about, or that you're avoiding, or just don't want to deal with, and then you have really weird nightmares that are like, nice try, bitch, because they manifest all the things you tried to repress? That's what I think is happening in Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. The dread and horror surrounding Rachel grows and grows each time she denies her true desires, as she feels the pressure growing and growing to walk down the aisle that feels more and more like a plank she is being shoved down. There are so many symbols in this show that give shape to Rachel's unspoken fears, trauma, and dread. There is a fox who is trapped and then freed, though maimed. There is the wedding dress itself, not of her choosing, practically forced upon her. There's the family cabin like a fortress she cannot escape, a Barbie shoe as a symbol of her deceased mother, and the warnings she is trying to communicate to her from beyond the veil. When we dream or have nightmares, our unconscious uses symbols to help us make sense of what we have not yet made sense of. Carl Jung, famed psychoanalyst, maybe you've heard of him, spoke about the significance of symbols in human psychology. Nikki Partridge, a Jungian analyst and psychologist, described the importance of symbols like so. A symbol is the best possible expression of something not yet fully known. It is not a sign explaining what we already understand, but an image that carries what consciousness cannot yet hold, psychic energy taking form. Symbols arise when tension can no longer simply be discharged. Usually, we regulate ourselves. Anger is expressed, sadness is cried, anxiety is reasoned through, conflict resolves when we choose a side. But sometimes the tension doesn't resolve. The feeling is too large. The opposites are polarized. Instinct threatens ego identity. Trauma refuses language. The old structures no longer contain what is happening. So the psyche does something ancient and precise. It holds the tension. Energy gathers and condenses into image. A woman in midlife dreams of descending into a cave, leaving the unknown world for something dark and necessary. A man divided between aggression and goodness dreams of a serpent coiled in his living room. The image does not solve the conflict, it contains it. A symbol is a vessel. It gives shape to what cannot yet be said. It stands between instinct and consciousness, holding opposites long enough for transformation. Rachel seems to have some psychic abilities to connect with the past. Perhaps this is supernatural, or perhaps it is Rachel's implicit knowing about her own family lineage that has been passed down to her through blood and bone. Implicit knowledge refers to things that you know that cannot be formally noted down or quantified, but more like knowledge that you just know to be true in your guts, that you have gained through experience or something even more intuitive or primal. The term was first used to describe how babies simply know to watch, respond to, and look to their mothers for safety. Despite only knowing her mother for a few short months after her birth, Rachel carries a deep implicit knowing about her mother and her marital experience. She is deeply connected to the story of her mother dying on her wedding day because she didn't marry her soulmate. She goes through county death records and is able to find that nearly every single woman in her family line who got married died on her wedding day. This built an implicit knowledge within Rachel to be skeptical of marriage, to question whether or not soulmates even exist, and to wonder why she would even get married at all. Of course, Rachel questions all of this internally, as she has no external safe space to process any of this, due to the fact that Nikki's family is really intense and maybe wants to sacrifice her. That whole part remains kind of a plot hole. Thus, the environmental dread and foreboding builds. Have you heard of the 4B movement in Korea? It's a very interesting and revolutionary feminist movement where women abide by the 4 Bs or the 4 No's: B is the first letter for the word no in Korean. The movement represents a rejection of heterosexual relationships as a means of resisting patriarchal structures. The 4 Bs are no marriage, no childbirth, no dating, and no sex. The movement emerged in the mid-2010s amid growing online feminist activism in South Korea, a country where women face the widest gender pay gap among OECD nations and persistent sexual violence and discrimination. Up until this point, a lot of women have felt much like Rachel feels about the obligation to get married and have children. I think the best thing about the 4B movement is that it is further expanding upon waves of feminism that have had different areas of focus throughout its various waves. And it is helping women to realize that getting married and having kids is just one choice they can make for their lives and not the only choice. Consequently, as the 4B movement grows and gets international attention and participation, governments are panicking. South Korea currently has one of the lowest birth rates in the world and has poured billions of dollars into efforts to encourage women to have more children and maintain population stability while continuing to prop up the entire global economy on their exhausted, fed-up shoulders. Highlighting why women have opted to abide by the 4Bs, Korean Jindo County Mayor Kim Hee-soo said that rural hamlets could address plummeting birth rates by pairing lonely bachelors with women enticed from places like Vietnam and Sri Lanka. And it is at this time that I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes from country singer Loretta Lynn, who famously sang about the pill. She said, "If I had the pill back when I was having babies, I'd have taken them like popcorn." Amen, sister. All right, a card that I associate with something very bad is going to happen is the 9 of Swords. This is definitely the anxiety card. The card of being positively besieged at nighttime by nightmares and dread. Swords are the suit of the mind, of the cognitive, and there is a feeling here represented in the card about both overthinking and perhaps for Rachel focusing too much on, well, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is tradition. We get married to a guy we think is our soulmate, right? It's certainly a tradition in my family to get married and then die on that day, and who am I to buck tradition? The problem with Rachel focusing so much on what she should be doing, what is the logical, practical next step for her, is that she is ignoring her gut feeling. This supernaturally charged knowing that she has that indeed, should she get married, something very bad is going to happen. As a result of the suppression of her true feelings and giving herself the grace to explore and honor them, there is this manifestation of psychic torture, a nightmare scenario as she forces herself to do something that she knows deep down is not meant for her. I wonder, if Rachel actually addressed her anxieties directly, if she actually looked up at the swords that hang above her head, would they transform into something else? Perhaps a bridge, a life raft, or maybe a new path entirely? The 9 of Swords wins the award for Best Cinematography in Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen, representing the absolute horror of betraying herself that Rachel considers in the series. I kind of hate the word should. Shoulds represent external pressures or expectations, and they often greatly differ from our own internal wants or desires. It's very important to differentiate shoulds from wants so you don't end up making an important decision like whether or not to get married, have kids, or transfer an intergenerational curse to an entirely new bloodline without being so certain if you are making it due to external pressure or expectation, or if it is a true calling. I have been a feminist for as long as I can remember, and when people ask me what that word means to me or how I would define it, for me, it has always come down to choice. Being able to make the choices that are right for you, free from the constraints of societal expectation, discrimination, violence, or coercion. This means that women can choose to get married or not, have children or not, have a career or not, have a supernatural connection with your haunted dead mother or not. Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen is a show about that choice and the horrors that women continue to face in freely choosing. If you haven't seen it, I command you to screw the rest of this podcast and watch it immediately. I mean, if that's your choice. And that, my ghouls, is the story of Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen, and our exploration of bridal anxiety and the curse of heteronormative expectations. Mental Health is Horrifying is entirely researched, written, edited, and produced by me, Candis Green, registered and spooky psychotherapist. If you like this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing on your preferred listening platform. It really helps the show to reach all the other spooky ghouls out there, and I will be eternally grateful. And an eternity is a very long time for a vampire, okay? If you live in Ontario and are interested in psychotherapy with me, I offer therapy for final girls who want to make sense out of the guts of their lives. I incorporate both tarot and dream work into my practice as tools to delve deeper into fields of psychic terrain. You can follow me on Instagram at Mental Health is Horrifying, and you can also learn more about me and my services through my website, manymoonstherapy.com. Or you can also howl at the moon and I will hear your call. Bright blessings.